So today, my folks and friends and all the things, I am here to talk to you about my secret about having a better sex life. Hopefully I don't get cut off because I don't know what the requirements are in here. So we're just going to go wing it and see what happens. I'm not doing any nudity, so we should be fine. Okay. So why is this important? Well, so many reasons. One would be, the fact that I have discovered a multitude of things around better sex and intimacy. I feel like I feel so bad about saying the word sex on here because I'm like, I say it enough times with a cut me off. So one of the things I found was, the more I know more about self, the more I know about myself, the more space there is, the more ability I have to communicate my wants, my needs, my desires. And there's still this one thing that gets me. And I've noticed in a couple other people as well. So this is probably why I decided to talk about this today. It's like, it's the simplest thing, but we fear it to the high heavens. So that's interesting, really. I mean, that's the most interesting. And my secret is vulnerability. How can I, as the individual, or you at home, be more vulnerable? Now, sometimes people view vulnerability as a weakness. And I want to tell you today, it's an absolute strength, friends. Absolute strength. And here's why. It's not easy to be vulnerable. It's like the idea of pouring your heart out to someone is really scary, and you're not alone in that. And to develop some kind of deep relationship with others, it's really necessary that you show up authentically. So vulnerability is a skill that you can develop. We're not all born vulnerable over here, okay, or the ability to have vulnerability. And it's possible to change the dynamic of our relationships with some intention and practice. And this is why Tantra is so beautiful. And I really wanted to cover this topic about vulnerability because, hey, the more you can be vulnerable, the more access you have to the fruits and juiciness that is the intimacy. Okay. So what does it actually mean to be vulnerable in the first place, right? It's like it involves the ability to be openly express your needs, your preferences, revealing your emotions honestly, and to set and maintain healthy boundaries. Now, this is a definition coming right from a licensed clinical social worker from New York. Her name is Liza Gold. Okay. So some of the examples of vulnerability could be like simply like asking your partner for a hug, apologizing for a mistake that you made. That's a vulnerable place to be. Making a request like no phones at dinner time. Want to be fully present. Maybe it's asking your partner to help you with something, even though you're the most independent woman on the planet and you got this, but you really want to ask. That's a vulnerable place for us to be. And my favorite and probably the most vulnerable, disclosing something that makes you feel insecure. We all have our own insecurities, and I'm going to tell you, it's totally normal. And there's a way to not have to feel so insecure. So I'm going to write that down as a post I would like to do about feeling insecure. Can I get an Amy? Okay. Gonna get an email. Okay. Gonna get an email. Okay. Anyways, why is it so hard, ladies? This is a lady's question. Why is it hard to be vulnerable with the men, with the masculine, energetic person inside of the relationship? So even if you're same sex, it could be like the masculine role. Okay. Because vulnerability is seriously so brave. It's an act of courage, in my opinion. Being vulnerable with a man or any partner, let's just say any partner, can be challenging, particularly if you've been taught, like I said earlier, vulnerability being a weakness. No. You may have grown up in a family or a culture where certain topics were taboo, like Tantra. Hi, everyone. Yes, taboo topics. That's what we're here for. Or maybe it wasn't ultimately safe to share yourself, your feelings, your ideas, or maybe even your values. I know for myself, it was hella scary to be vulnerable in my family because they ridiculed you for every little thing. It was like, children should be seen and not heard and la 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 la. And it's like, I have feelings too. And then we had to listen to their feelings. And it was this big whole thing, right? So I didn't feel ultimately safe. And this is number one for women in any scenario, that we need to feel safe in order to open up. Open up the flower, open up being vulnerable, open our yonis. If you ain't accessing this heart, friends, it's closed. No vulnerability, no access. You got that? Okay, great. You also could have a history of abandonment or rejection, shaming, some neglect, which ultimately becomes more difficult to, or actually frightening as well, to continue to open yourself up, right? I have past experiences where this didn't go very well. And it's like, that's the program that's running in our minds. And we're like, we can't go there. We can't do that. You can if you want. Okay. Now, I want to get into why it's so important that we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And this is going to lead us to the tip on how to have better sex and intimacy. I'll just say intimacy. Y'all know what I mean. It's like encompasses it all. It encompasses the emotional part of you, the physical part of you, the intercourse parts of you, all of it. Okay. We're going to dive deeper into intimacy as well. We're going to write this down. I'm writing a lot of things down lately, so hold me to this. Intimacy. Into me, I see. TM. Okay, beautiful. So, in fact, well, this is even better. I just realized this. Vulnerability is actually another word for intimacy. Into me, I see. It's very vulnerable. I'm allowing you, I'm exposing myself, like all parts of me, the good, the bad, the ugly. That encompasses intimacy and vulnerability. Wow. Okay, we just got that newly. That's cool. It's important for your partner to interact with the vulnerable parts of you and vice versa, because that's the actual only way to connect, which is really interesting. Only way to connect. Okay. I'm just going to set this up here because I may do a reel later on. Darling, it's important that we have these conversations and that we have this readily available. Let me go here. Let's go. Wonder if I can, please hold while technical difficulties are amongst us. Yay. I want to keep you too long, but vulnerability conversations real important here. Okay. Vulnerability is so important. It's important that you interact with the vulnerable parts of your partner, the vulnerable version of you, to be exposed, because then you know you're actually in love. 9 times out of 10, I see people like having sex because they're trying to avoid their feelings. That is not intimacy, folks. Okay, that is not intimacy. Into me, I see. TM. Ever since I saw the Love Guru, he says this like, into me, I see. TM, like the trademark. And I have to say it every time now because maybe it is trademark and I should really be careful. Anyways, I digress. You want to experience true acceptance of each other, your whole selves. It's super important. If you are looking for the actual connection to self, to other, to sacred union, as it were. And I got to tell you, tantric intimacy is probably the most hella awesome, amazing way to experience the best sex of your life, because into me, I see. It's vulnerable. It's raw. It's good. It's ready. It's like, where was this hiding? Where was all those things hiding? I was doing all my, one night stands and hookups and hookup culture and crappy things that left me feeling empty, meaningless, and gross. Yeah, because y'all not connecting. You're not doing those one-step things of vulnerability every day. I implore you to do one thing a day that exposes you, that allows your vulnerability to come through. I think it's beautiful. So there are many benefits to being vulnerable, okay? So outside of the bedroom, these are also things that can help. So affirming your self-esteem. It can help you build trust in yourself. It can help with conflict resolution, folks. Conflict resolution. Developing resilience. Oh, this is one of the things I love about my mom. As much as she doesn't open up emotionally, she's the most resilient person I know. So love her for that. Vulnerability is like deepening your bond to yourself, to the other person, to others that come into your life. I'm a little bit sniffly here, sorry. Oh, it can also promote emotional safety and security. Because think about this, you're doing this thing called being vulnerable. You're exposing something that you probably don't want to because you're scared shitless. Think about the brain pattern. Think about the way the brain is going to rewire itself to say, hey, I'm okay to be here. I'm okay to expose myself. It's safe. You also get this element of feeling seen. Like, hello, let's feel seen, folks. Isn't that what we're all after anyway? Peace, love, harmony, feeling seen, gotten, community, connection. That's why I'm here. That's why I do these things for y'all. It's not just for y'all, it's for me too. Promotes mental and physical health. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Now, the kicker, the vulnerability factor of the better sex. There is a key element of why it doesn't work for everyone. Because like I said earlier, a lot of us have been conditioned to numb out our feelings or avoid things, topics, conversations we don't want to have because it makes us feel uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you something. Get real close and real intimate with being uncomfortable. Why? Because that is where your growth edge is. Say goodbye to penis pumps. I'm kidding. No, the growth edge as in your higher self, your growth of evolution growth, not your penal growth. Although may work for you. I wonder if there's a lot of energetic blockages that are refraining from the full-blown exposure of, what I'm saying. Could it actually work within your emotions? I'm going to go into an investigation mode on that. Investigate emotion blocks and penal growth. I hope I can say that on here. Crap. I don't know. I have no idea. Okay. So what you really want to do, and I know this isn't like sex 101. I'm so sorry. And this is the inner work, folks. This is the bedroom and beyond, for crying out loud. If you don't get this, well, you don't get this, you know? So a lot of emotions can come up with being vulnerable, right? You got your fear, there's some anxiety present, some self-doubt. You may even find it empowering to learn how to sit with your emotions so they feel less intimidating. Get into bed, not with the enemy, not with your ego. Get into bed with the emotions, because they will tell you things that you never thought possible. Emotions are stemming from your body. It's a sensation, it's a feeling. And we, as the body, remember these feelings. So when you go to rewire your brain, or when you go to be vulnerable and it rewires your brain to say, hey, I'm safe, I'm okay, your body will remember that and it'll be less likely to fear it in the future, which I think is great. Okay, great. So some activities that you can do before you get down and dirty: do some meditation, maybe some yoga, do some journaling, okay? Do some like breathing activities. And you know where all of this comes in as a whole intimacy package? Tantra. Yeah, Tantra. I know. We just think it's kinky sex things and Kama Sutras. It's not. I'm going to tell you right now, it has nothing to do with the Kama Sutra. Can it become a nice tool in tandem with the Kama Sutra? Of course it can, but it is separate. Just like ejaculation and orgasm are separate. Hate to break it to you. Okay. Tandem teams work well together, not the same thing. All right. So you want to start small. You want to start easy. Maybe consider sharing something you wouldn't mind other people finding out about, but it's maybe something your partner doesn't really know about you or about something yet. That's okay. So write it down, practice writing it down. I find this works for me. I would write it down, the vulnerable thing you want to be vulnerable about or with, write it down, and then say it out loud. So it's like preemptively, you get stopped like deer in headlights, usually when you're trying to say something uncomfortable or in a vulnerable spot, and it's like, write it down. Preemptively, intentionally write it down, and then you can read it off the paper. It's not as scary that way, I don't think. Yeah, that works for me. I hope it works for you. Not everything's going to work that I say here, but hey. Another good thing is using I statements. Use I statements. So I feel insecure about this thing. I feel insecure when you get hit on by the person by the pool or at the gym or at the bar, whatever. It's less likely that your partner will get defensive. And you can actually preemptively, I do this all the time, like I preemptively say, I have something I want to share with you. It's a little uncomfortable for me to say. Is this a free space? Can you receive what I have to say? That's a beautiful way of saying it. Beautiful, darling. Consider a time limit. Okay. Consider a time limit. So you know you only have to speak for 5 to 10 minutes, however long you set it for. And then your partner kind of just receives. And then when the alarm goes off, set an alarm, switch. Okay, you want to switch. I think it's beautiful. Okay. Reach out to a therapist or a tantric practitioner. Hey, try some couples therapy with Tantra. Hey, that would be a really great idea. If you're having issues trying to be vulnerable, this is the place to do it. I promise you, I have grown-ass men in my practice crying in my lap because they finally have this space to feel vulnerable and safe at the same time. And thus their brain starts to connect that you can actually feel safe while being vulnerable. Now, in their lifetime, men, I know this is probably pretty alive for you still. But most of the time, men do not feel safe feeling vulnerable because they were told not to show emotion, not to go there, be a man doesn't cry, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not suggesting you have to cry to be vulnerable, but it is one of the side effects of being vulnerable sometimes. But I'm going to tell you, ladies, correct me if I'm wrong. If a man was so open with you, not like a sissy girl crying in your lap, like, oh my God, my life, but like literally just like open up, maybe shed a tear about something that was really important to him, and he shared from his heart, not from like getting one or like making you wrong, would you not just like want to like ravish him to the high heavens? I would. I couldn't help myself. It's like, oh, deep conversations and love. Oh my God, yes, please. Yes, please. Okay. So there you have it. My number one sex tip is my number one secret to sex that is better is to get vulnerable. Said another way, get really nitty gritty and deep into your intimacy. Figure out what intimacy means to you. Break it down. There's no right or wrong answer. Break it down. What does it actually mean to you? I actually had someone comment and had the most beautiful comment about what intimacy meant to them. And I cried. I cried a little bit. It was so vulnerable and lovely. And in fact, I don't think I acknowledged this being. So I'm going to go do that right now. So get some vulnerability in you. Replay, recap all these things that I've talked about today and see what works for you. They're not going to all work for you. They may feel uncomfortable, but I said the growth edges in your uncomfortable feelings. Okay. I'm going to head out because it's been a long time now. Love you. Bye.